there is if you're not following, his name's at Hayek and Hockey.
Yeah, I've seen that guy.
He's so funny. Don't tell him. He probably won't be
Don't tell
listening
him.
to this. Don't tell him that because we can't inflate his ego. But he put out a tweet. I bet Boswell is trying to kick himself right now and missing. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Donut Bag, part of the Pulse Podcast Network and the Pod Hub Network. In this episode, I recap the horrible Steelers loss to the Raiders with Craig. He's at Penguin44 on Twitter, and Mark Haeglauer, as well as the other action in this weekend in the NFL. The Donut Bag starts right now. Steelers lose to the Oakland Raiders, who are now 3-10. Steelers now 7-5-1. Oh boy. With me to talk about it is Craig. He is at PitPenguin44 on Twitter. How you doing, sir?
Oh, I wish I was doing better after this game, but
Oh my God.
I'm here. How about you?
I'm just, after they lost to the Chargers, I was very angry about that game and really upset. And to me, it's a joke. It's just laughable. Like, how can you lose to this team? It's to me, it just means the season is over. Even if they make the playoffs, even if they win the division, it doesn't matter because they're not going to do anything. They can't even beat a 2-10 team. Ugh, what do you think?
If and this is a very big if they make the playoffs, I don't really see them going very far, especially with the defense and the way that the kicker's been kicking. I mean, when the offense is on, they're on, but that defense, especially that secondary, it's a lost cause. And it started last year against Jacksonville when they got 45 points scored on them. How do you give up that many points and then the following season, you don't really make too many adjustments, and you're losing to teams that are 2-10.
Yeah. I mean, really, they lost Shazier, and I can understand why last year the defense was bad because losing your best, losing Shazier was just a huge loss that they could not overcome. But what did they do in the offseason to make up for it? Nothing really. They got Burnett, and they drafted a safety who was supposed to cover tight ends, but I saw a tight end today that just gashed them, and it's been happening all year. I mean, this defense is pathetic.
Even the personnel on the field has been questionable, especially. And I'm not going to delve into the Le'Veon Bell saga, but with that extra money that they had, they could have went out and they could have fixed the problem, especially with the cornerback situation. Exactly. Or other spots that they weren't really sure if that person can cover. If this linebacker's not doing his job, I mean, bring in some players because you're just getting embarrassed. That last drive for the Raiders, they just cut right through them all the way down. I mean, It was like, just let them score. Why even put anybody on the field?
That's what I said. Actually, that's what I said. Just let them score. We know they're going to score. Just let them score, and then let us drive down the give Ben time to have a comeback. And you're right. The way the whole Le'Veon Bell thing played out, they ended up saving $14.5 million for that could be used to next year or whatever, but they're basically $14.5 million under the cap. At least that they could have spent that money on better defensive players, on just better whatever, and you could have done something with that money. And it was just badly played. It was just I don't know. That whole Le'Veon Bell situation might have sunk the whole season.
That very well could have been, but again, from the reports that came out with some of the cornerbacks that are in the league that were looking for trades is they wanted draft picks, and the Steelers they don't trade away draft picks. No, we don't do that. Well, when you're getting embarrassed, by a team that's 2-10, how much is that draft pick really going to matter? I mean, you're striving to win a Super Bowl here, not take the number one draft pick, and you're hoping that you get like the 29th or 30th pick in the draft, but they hold on to those. And when you got a guy like Artie Burns, who I don't know how well you can coach him or what faith that they have in him, and he comes out and in that Charger game, I mean, he completely missed the kicker, even though he was offside. He completely missed the kicker and the ball. I mean, when do you just say, okay, it isn't working, let's shut this down, let's go in another direction?
Artie Burns has been a complete bust. Yeah, anytime he's ever been on the field this year, it's been a complete disaster. And that's, when you have a cornerback that fails, and he was a first round draft pick, it's a huge loss. So whoever was responsible for drafting him, that turns out to be a bust, and that's huge. So yeah, the defense, and I mean the Steelers have spent so many draft picks on defense the last few years, and what do they have to show for it? Some of them good and some of them bad, but overall the defense is pathetic. And I said, so let's recap the game real quick. So Oakland drives down their first drive and just goes down the field at will. We've seen this so many times this year, and they go up 7-0. Steelers end up tying it, and Raiders get a field goal, and then another problem. Steelers miss a field goal, and that missed field goal ends up being huge.
When you have,
sorry, go ahead.
That is another just mind-boggling part of this season is the fact that you have a kicker for the past couple of seasons has been money, and when the offense wasn't clicking, he was there kicking 63, 50-yard field goals and helping win the game. And this year he can't make an extra point. He can't, kick a field goal from 30 yards out. I mean, he got paid, and now what's he doing?
Who knows? But he was a big factor in the Steelers losing this game. That missed field goal in the first half was huge. So Steelers still are up at the end of the half 14-10 because they score a touchdown toward the end of the first half. Great play by Juju I call him Juju toe tap because he barely stayed in bounds, which was great. So, but that drive proved costly because Ben was hurt. They're saying there was a rib injury, and so Dobbs starts the second half, and he plays in a few drives, and he actually gets an interception. So Raiders score in the fourth quarter to make it 21-17. I'm sorry, 17-14. And then Ben comes into the game and promptly drives him down 6 plays, 75 yards, and they go up 21-17, but there's 2:25 left in the game. I said on Twitter, how much confidence does everyone have in the defense to stop them? And maybe one person said, yeah. But most every single person said I have zero confidence in the defense actually stopping them, and they were right because the Raiders just went down the field and they scored a touchdown to make it 24-21, and that's it. I mean the defense just could not do it.
They couldn't close out the game when they needed to, and that's a big problem, especially if they were to make like the playoffs. I mean, that's when you need your defense to close out games. You need them to come in, especially I'm not going to get into the whole if Ben was hurt, why did he sit out the entire or okay to play the fourth quarter? Then why did he sit out the third quarter? Why didn't you just throw him in? When he came back. Because that right there is just a whole another I don't know, another part of the season that just keeps getting worse. And, especially when he comes in, he scores the drive, you think, okay, we can sit back now. But no, that defense just collapsed. And that's when you need your defense to be stronger. That's when you need your defense to step up and say, we need to make the stop here. Our quarterback came in. He scored the touchdown. Now let's stop and go home.
Yeah.
And they were out to lunch. They're already on the flight home.
Yeah.
They already said, oh, we won, so we're heading to the airport right now. Let's go.
It's just sad. It's just I don't know. I mean, yeah. To me, that was the biggest thing right there. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. To me, it's just a joke. The thing that I heard all week was this was like a litmus test game. If you can't beat the Raiders, if you can't beat a 2-10 team, what business do you even have making the playoffs? You're not going to do anything. Why bother? Like, I don't know. Like, yeah. To me, this season's lost. What do you think?
I would agree with you on that, and I would look at in the next coming weeks you've got New England, you've got New Orleans, and those are the games that everybody's thinking, oh, we're going to lose, and chances are we probably will, especially if you got Drew Brees coming up against that defense. I mean that's just going to be a nail in the coffin for sure. But then the Steelers offense, especially after games like this, and I was hoping to see that Steelers offense today, was after that Chargers game when they got, screwed and they lost. That offense, when they get fired up, they come out in that first drive, they score, and when you see that first drive or that first quarter score, they're going to be running up the points the entire game. You start to get kind of worried when they sputter on offense that first quarter or two, and then they start to come alive in the third and fourth, and you're thinking, oh, it's going to be a close one. I mean, when you got these powerhouse teams coming in like New Orleans, and I mean, New England's always had the number, so that's why I consider them powerhouse. It does not look good for the rest of the season. It doesn't look good for either.
It doesn't. It's yeah. I mean, they have New England next week, then New Orleans. The only chance they have of beating New Orleans is if New Orleans has nothing to play for and they rest their starters. That's it.
Right.
And I doubt that's going to happen. But one thing that really hurts the offense was no running game whatsoever. Connor was hurt. Jalen Samuels had 11 rushes for 28 yards. Pathetic. And they, and I saw the debates on Twitter all day. I said, well, you don't need a running game if your passing game is good enough, blah, blah, blah. Like, really? Because the past few games I've seen them pass it heavily and lose. If there's no balance, if the other team knows you're going to pass it, that puts the offense at a severe disadvantage.
Right, and one thing that I found curious was the fact that Mike Tomlin's always been a one back guy. When he's got a guy in there, he uses him and runs the wheels off of him. Now today he actually used him and Ridley, which to me was kind of like a head scratch. Like, when you had Bell, it was Bell, 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 and when you had Connor,